I will just want you to know, behind the scenes, my best material was cut already. But I also want to expand on the notion of this being friends. We're all friends here. He hardly needs this introduction, but I'm going to give it to you anyways, so you can revel in all of his accomplishments. The basic. Tonight's guest is a professional musician, and you've been playing around town a lot.
A bit.
Author, painter, it's not in here.
Okay,
Right, and the author of Yesterday We Forgot, Tomorrow, Santa Fe Psychosis. Over the last 10 years, Talley has published 60 stories and essays in publications all over, and yet means you're working all the time.
Seems like it.
Spreading the word, I guess. For instance, Brooklyn Atticus Review, About Place Journal, Whiskey Tit, and Saturday Evening Post, which is amazing because I didn't even know it existed anymore. But it does.
We're keeping it alive.
It very does. A short story, Celestial Vagabonds, won Best Fiction Contest from Jerry Jazz Musician. Other titles include the literary short story collection, My Secret Place, and the genre collection, When the Night Breathes Electric, 2023. And really, no one speaks as well for Max Talley as Max Talley, who will now read and talk about his new book.
Thank you, DJ.
Thank you.
So the idea of this book came to me because I'd always wanted to write a 60s book. But about 15 years ago, I was teaching guitar at Jensen Music, which sadly just closed recently. And a woman who was my student gave me like 10 books by T. Jefferson Parker. Okay, very famous crime writer. And I looked through all of them, and it's not really my style. I would love to have his problems. He's sells a bunch of books, and he's a good crime writer. But I found one called California Girl, and I said, oh, this is interesting. It's like in 1968, it's a psychedelic crime book. So I looked at it and I was totally disappointed. Now I'm sure it sold a lot of copies, but it was just like all of his other crime books set in the late 90s or early 2000s, but every once in a while he would throw in, there's a woman with a headband. Or in one chapter, someone's smoking a joint because people only smoked joints in 1968. And then there's a surfer because people only surfed in the 60s. So it was sort of like, I don't know, a Forrest Gump kind of thing where they just would throw a little reference in, but I didn't feel like I was in the 60s, so I really wanted to write a book from that point of time that would be like that. This book rose out of a book that didn't sell 11 years ago called Dear Mr. Fantasy, which went from the 60s to 2010. Nobody wanted to publish that. They were like, 5 decades, 5 characters, 130,000 words? No. You know, they sort of slashed, it said 2 characters, 80,000 words. 1 decade. So some of those stories got published in other magazines. 2 stories about the character in this book got published in a crime magazine, and the editor said, so is this from a book? And I was like, no. So I thought maybe I could write this. It would be just in 6 months of 1969 instead of 5 decades with 5 characters. So I did that. It took 2 years to sending it out and getting rejected. Crime places thought it was too hippie. Literary places thought it was too crimey. So finally I found a place in New York, and it's a good sign when they read your book within a month as opposed to it's out for 12 months. And then they send you a form rejection. Thank you for your YA. We did not read it, but we're not publishing it either. So anyway, the book got published, and I would like to read the beginning section of it for about 9 minutes. This will just give you an idea of the main character, what he's going through, sort of the inciting incident that launches him into the world. Haight Street was thronged with young hippies and middle-aged freaks that fateful day. The air thick from tobacco, incense, auto exhausts, and fried food smells. Some blue-nosed straights gawked on the sidelines as a discordant blend of noise echoed off storefronts. A balding man in a toga who resembled Allen Ginsberg shouted out poetry, while a dude in American flag pants blew on a harmonica. A young woman with ratty brown hair in her eyes played a recorder, and a painted face guy in army fatigues blasted trumpet victory calls. A seething madness, like a stalled parade stretching for blocks, and as Dorn veered out into car traffic, then pressed through bodies blocking sidewalk travel, he reminded himself, this was freedom. No one living there, no one camped there, wore suits or formal dresses or carried briefcases to some bullshit 9-to-5 job. They'd escaped Squaresville to find their utopia, bliss, but the masses just kept coming. When the plainclothes cop first approached Frederick Dorn at his art gallery, his initial response was, no, hell no. Become a fucking narc? Unthinkable. But that was back in December of '67. 18 months later, any lingering afterglow of the summer of love in San Francisco had most definitely ended. The mafia moved into the Haight, bringing cheap speed and strong heroin. A number of Dorn's friends either died or became sallow addicts. A desperate junkie even robbed him right outside his gallery. Dorn's ex-girlfriend, Ramona's tragic overdose, brought him to a decision. Maybe I can work with the man to bust dealers ruining the neighborhood. I won't finger any users, just nail the scumbags at the top. Detective Rodriguez, he said over the phone, it's Freddie Dorn. You asked for my help a while back. There's a neighborhood dealer known as Rat-Man. Are you interested? We're very interested in shutting Rathkin down, Rodriguez replied. Come in to talk. Rat-Man Rathkin, purveyor of mass quantities of bad drugs. His experimental batch of orange marmalade, called Ohm, caused a local dude to run into traffic and get hit by a trolley car. It also sent a 15-year-old girl to the psych ward in a straitjacket. Dorn's best buddy, Van Monk, had his brains permanently fried by a single dose of Ohm. Dorn walked Haight Street in July of '69, a day after calling. He finally reached the Park Station. Inside, the scent of body odor and desperation mingled freely. Dorn shuffled past benches holding delirious hippies, 2 Black Panthers, a chanting Hare Krishna member in robes, and a disoriented grandmotherly woman. He peered in the open offices until he found the sole Hispanic cop. Detective? Dorn, come in. Rodriguez chewed on a sandwich. So, can you help us nail Rathkin? Dorn felt uncomfortable, trapped. I won't be an informer, but Rat-Man needs to get busted. Too many casualties from his drugs. Rodriguez flexed a police smile. That's all we want, he insisted, a little community cooperation. Let's go speak to the captain. The captain didn't like the idea at all, but somehow Rodriguez convinced him. Dorn promised to contact them when he got a line on Rat-Man's whereabouts. 2 days later, against his better judgment, Dorn clambered over the closed security gate at the south end of the Golden Gate Bridge at midnight and scuttled along the empty walkway for 100 yards until he saw the hunched form of Rat-Man. His legs dangled over the 2-foot ledge. Dorn joined him, keeping one arm around the railing like an anchor. Hey man, long time no see. Dorn didn't reply. He sat on the iron lip, a ledge that existed inches from the public walkway in measurement, but miles away in sanity. He crossed the divide between a tourist taking in the view and a suicidal loner at the edge of his lifespan. Maybe someday the district would patrol the bridge, put up barricades to make it harder for the jumpers, but not in July 1969. Free love, free jazz, and free death. Thanks for coming, Rat-Man said, as if Dorn had driven up to a party. I needed a witness. By Rat-Man's side lay a 6-foot duffel bag packed with something. You sure about this plan? Dorn gripped his faded jacket tight for warmth. If I don't off myself tonight, the mob will do it, Rat-Man said. It's a control thing, master my own destiny. A thundering foghorn blat rose from the gray suit below. Occasionally the fog cleared to show whitecaps on the bay below. Dorn stared straight out at Alcatraz Island because looking down made his stomach queasy, his head dizzy with electric fear and the whispery seduction to leap. When the mafia moved into the Haight last year, they only took notice of Rat-Man after fronting him 5,000 Dexedrine capsules that he never paid them back for. The West Coast mob didn't give warnings like in movies. They just got rid of you. Dorn studied the displayed bag by Rathkin. You asked me to come witness this theatrical absurdity? One performance only. Death of the most famous dealer in San Francisco. Rat-Man outstretched his arms. Infamous, you mean? Van Monk should be here. Rat-Man twitched. Nobody would believe that crazy fool as a witness. He sucked on a joint, an evil grin sandwiched between his charcoal stubble. You sold him the orange marmalade that's kept him tripping ever since. Dorn wished he was inside one of the warm, lit-up houses jutting out on the Tiburon Peninsula. Hang on, man, Rat-Man said. First off, I gave him that ohm, a free sample. Also, Van Monk tried every new pill that hit the street. It's just a bullshit innuendo of a rumor, of a myth, of a lie, that my product did that to him. How do you know? Have you eaten any? Are you crazy? Ohm is like a cocktail of STP, DMT, and mescaline cut with speed. Rat-Man exhaled. Anyway, everyone's free, man, to take whatever they want. He pointed a finger. And it's not very hip for you to be against freedom. Me, I just provide for others. Sure, St. Rathkin. Dorn shivered. Let's get this over with. It wasn't raining, but the air hung wet and cold against his face. I don't believe an egotistical prick like you will ever jump. Rat-Man laughed. What's in the duffel bag? Dorn sat uncomfortable, both arms around the railing. My ticket to Mexico. Rat-Man tapped the bag gently. A friend at St. Francis Memorial owed me, provided a stiff. Dude OD'd yesterday. No positive ID. After this guy's in the water for a while, he could be anyone. Rat-Man turned his head. Are you getting the picture? Distraught dealer takes a mega dose of drugs, then jumps off the Golden Gate Bridge. Sounds outlandish, unbelievable. Man, we're in San Francisco. It's 1969. Anything is possible. Somewhere, roughly 240,000 miles beyond Earth, astronauts approached the moon to walk on its surface. So Dorn had to agree with the rat bastard. How's this work? Dorn asked, among the wet echoes of waves slapping against steel bridge supports below. You see me ready to jump, right? And you're gonna watch a body in my clothes fall. Rat-Man smirked. Then that's all you need to say. When the corpse is eventually found, it'll back up your story. They'll identify him by his fingerprints. Do you think my real name is Rat-Man Rathkin? Hell no. Changed it when I left Jersey in '66. Whoever this guy is, that can be me. I moved to Mexico and hired like Owsley did, and I creep back to LA, start over. And the mob will forget? With your eyewitness account and the corpse, I will live to 90, man. He unzipped the body bag but stopped. There's more. Your last will? Dorn shook his head. What do I inherit? All your tainted drugs? Rat-Man grunted. Since I'll be officially dead, figured I'd come clean about Ramona. Ramona? Dorn had fallen for Ramona when he first came to the Haight. In the spirit of '67, she soon shacked up with him. Things ended in early '68 when Ramona told Dorn she was free, didn't belong to any one man. He'd been devastated but hid that. Not cool to be hung up on a single lady when you could be out digging women everywhere. But what if you loved one person more than the rest? Were you a square? Bound in shackles like the Midwestern parents you escaped from? Would that eventually lead to marriage, cocktail parties, country clubs, and voting for Nixon? A year later, Ramona got hooked. She drowned in her bathtub soon after on heroin. Ever since, Dorn had been curious about who first shot her up. There was only one likely suspect. Rat-Man stared at the bearded corpse's face. After Ramona split from your pad, I let her crash at my place, he said. We snorted coke together, but later I found out she was shooting it. That's when I told her to split. He looked at Dorn, then away. What about heroin? Rat-Man's forehead scrunched. I don't do skag myself, he twitched, but I keep product hidden under my bed. Came home after a weekend in La Honda to find my stash open. Ramona had a key. Later, when I heard about the unfortunate event, I put two and two together. Rat-Man placed his arm around Dorn. I felt sort of responsible, even though it wasn't my fault in any way at all. Dorn sat motionless, trying to meditate, trying not to think. I know it doesn't matter that Ramona and I bawled a few times, just wanted to clear the air. Rat-Man peeled away the bag from the corpse. The bridge shook and a jolt surged through the iron girders beneath him. He grasped the railing. Earthquake. Dorn's heart constricted in his ribcage. Small ones happen every day. We don't feel it on the street, but they're fucking noticeable up here. Dorn hadn't struck anyone since grade school, but he had walked in peace marches, avoided Vietnam, and never ever considered hurting someone. But as Rat-Man said, anything was possible in San Francisco in 1969. Dude, you seem tense. Rathkin's ugly face returned. You and Van Monk thought you were better, never socialized, only came to score in desperate times, but see, we're all equal now. He pressed closer. Free yourself, man. We both shared a fine chick. He punched Dorn's shoulder. I congratulate you, now you congratulate me. Dorn thumped him hard on the back. The bridge shuddered again, aftershock, while Rat-Man pitched forward, unbalanced, his hand flailing in the misty air. Hey, grab me! His voice rose an octave, and he reached back, but his fingers attached themselves to the body bag. Dorn froze, watching himself watch a movie of real life occurring. Rat-Man teetered forward, pulling the corpse off the ledge to trail after his plunge. He screamed, Freddie! Out into black space. Maybe a splash sounded, but more Rathkin's extended shriek merging with the seagull cries overhead. Then Dorn got sick.
Wow.
Dorn thought that if he got Rat-Man arrested, then his job was done. He was finished. He could go back to his regular life. Unfortunately, this is the inciting incident. Both the police and the mafia were delighted that he somehow got rid of Rat-Man, and they both want to hire him for various things. At the same time, he doesn't want his friends to find out he's working with the police or the mob, so he's walking a tightrope between all kinds of danger and events. The idea of this was to merge it with real history, with things that were going on at the time, whether it be the Manson family down in Los Angeles, the rock festivals like Woodstock and Altamont, and all the things that were going on in the end of 1969.
Wow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
In that respect, it's really a good point. I think there's a scene. Now, I was too young to be in Haight-Ashbury by a couple of years, and I think you're younger than me. I want you. There's a scene coming up in a bank heist that's particularly weird and surreal, I guess is the right word, where you nail the band that's playing outside the bank as the Santana Blues Band. And I thought I was the only one who ever knew that Santana's original band was called the Santana. You did a lot of research for this.
Yes. So the idea with this, I think I got interested in because I love music. And when I was in college in the 80s music was kind of terrible. I mean, there was a few good bands, but we were hungry for music, so we went backwards. We wanted to hear The Doors, Neil Young, Hendrix, Dylan, all the classic stuff that we knew was back there. So that led me to Santana and then sort of researching all that. I don't know why, but I just wanted to know every detail about every band.
Well, that's fantastic. And that Santana Blues Band used to play in a little tiny club in Goleta every year before Santana became famous. But that's a lot of research you did.
It's a lot of research because I want the details to be right. It's when you're doing historical fiction, you don't expect people to read it and say, "Oh, this is reality," but you want them to say, "This could have happened if these people existed and were in this time frame." This, it's a suspension of disbelief. You want a backbone of reality, and then you can throw the other stuff on top of it.
Yeah, in a weird time, so even you can go a little weird too.
Yes.
And he does. I'll tell you right now. The other thing I think that you left with at the end of that scene is Dorn himself growing up or whatever, but after he's basically killed this guy.
Well, that's the question. Did he actually kill him?
Yeah.
I say he let the guy die.
Yeah.
Which I think is different than manslaughter.
Okay, and then remember, he's your main character. He's the guy that we're all following with.
Right. So that's why he's not a murderer. He's just he got very he became mellow at that point.
It's good that, and I didn't know that there were short stories with Dorn in them. I mean, it's very interesting to me that of all the people you could have picked for the detective or the knight errant or whatever you want to call him, he's a gallery owner at a place called United Hallucinations. Right?
Yeah, in the original book, the book that never got published, there was 5 characters, and it wasn't so much a crime novel. That was the one thing that he did, and it haunted him through the rest of the book. And then it followed him into the 80s New York art scene. But anyway, he was the one that most naturally could do it. Van Monk was also in the original book, but he had his mind messed up from Ohm. So he was flashing back and forward in time. He wouldn't be a good detective. He would be a very flawed.
Did you make up Ohm? I never heard of it before.
I made up Ohm because...
Okay, that's good. Yeah. I want to try it, but...
I'll give you some later.
When I'm 80, in an imaginary setting. And really, the last question I want to ask, and turn it over to your friends to talk to you, is that it's a different kind of writing for you. Even though your writing is always really dynamic and staccato and moves right along, this is real action stuff going on. And then you find a way to use that like incisive voice of yours, and it must have been a balancing act.
It was.
When you're writing it.
The actual action scenes, you kind of, I'm not going to say I was like Elmer Leonard, but you're going for that stripped down thing where it's the dialogue is carrying the action. Then there's other scenes where it's the 60s and they're on drugs and you want it to be more bohemian and expansive,
Yeah.
more Jack Kerouac. And I'm not saying I can imitate that, but I was thinking of that.
But it was your voice too.
Right.
That was on top of it. That was what's great about it. So, yeah.
Thank you, DJ.
I have a question.
Yes.
You introduced your writing that, with a friend of yours, Jefferson Parker, or somebody you met.
Oh, T. Jefferson Parker, I had read some of his crime books.
Well, I remember reading Little Saigon about Orange County, where the Vietnamese after the war went there.
Mhm.
And being a Vietnam veteran, I can remember the Viet Cong would always be digging tunnels everywhere. And in his story, he has a lot of Vietnamese criminals in Orange County who actually had storefronts who would dig tunnels to, to put things in.
In Orange County.
Yeah, in Orange County.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was the truth. But I think this is much better than Parker's stories.
Thank you.
It's the neighborhood you bring out so well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. What's your name?
Frank,
Frank. Thank you,
the
Frank.
one and only.
The one and only Frank. You know, second name, you're like Cher.
I broke the mold when I was born.
Happy Veterans Day too.
Yeah.
Happy Veterans Day.
The whole idea of learning a neighborhood always gets me to go back to San Francisco because that's a perfect neighborhood.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was Ulm kind of like Soma?
Maybe orange marmalade. I thought because when I was researching, I was reading about blue window pane and actual names of LSD at the time. So I thought this would be orange marmalade, and I could make it home. So
Yeah.
But Soma, Brave New World. I love that.
Yeah.
It makes you think of Paddington the Bear too when you're
Yeah.
great orange marmalade.
I think this is my first children's book. As Stephen Wright once said, I've written a few children's books, not on purpose. Any other questions? The meaning of life?
A comment, maybe Max, you not only got the neighborhood down, but the language. I confess to having been there, and it felt so authentic.
Thank you, Shira.
Yeah.
Great writer over here, Shira.
Sure.
So I guess we're gonna do a signing at this point.
No, question.
Oh, sorry. Rachel Thurston,
Oh my gosh.
Sparkle Queen.
It's so, not only is it awesome hearing what you've written, but you're such a good reader, and are you thinking about doing an audiobook? Because you're so good with the different voices, and you've
Thank
got
you.
such an excellent cadence.
I've thought about that. It's a lot of work. I mean, I would, but then there's other people who do that professionally. And,
But you'd be so good.
okay,
You really know your characters so
I'll
well.
suggest it.
And you know who can, like, coach you through that,
Yes,
too.
Claudia.
And Matt, yeah.
Oh, and Matt Palmer,
Yeah.
he does his own audio?
He does all of his own audio.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So between the two of them,
Yeah.
a few $1,000 to.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I'm sure other people here would agree that you're just such a fabulous reader. Not all writers are good readers. And you've got, it reminded me of Owen Meany when he's like, Freddie!
Thank
He
you.
had some good voices, yeah.
Thank you, Rachel.
Before we go, you have to ask the question they always ask is, are you working on something now? And you want to talk about it?
There's a lot of things I'm working on now. I'm finishing up. So Santa Fe Psychosis was a book that I did, a novella, short novella in 2022 for a Welsh publisher. And you're like, well, why would you publish in Wales? Because nobody else wanted it. So they were a fantastic company that lasted a year. So the book came and went, but I've been expanding the book, which was about 40,000 words, to about 75,000 words, and I hope that next year that will be published. So it's not in the 60s, it takes place in 2019, and it's in New Mexico, and it's a private detective and a police detective. Typically they don't like to work together, but they have to. And they're dealing with a lot of things that are actually going on in New Mexico, sex trafficking. A lot of people know about the Jeffrey Epstein thing. He's not in the book, but Zorro Ranch was 30 miles south of Santa Fe.
Mm.
He got busted in 2008 first, but Zorro Ranch stayed open without him, without other people going on. So that's in the background. That's not the foreground, but it's all about things going on there involving kidnapping, murder, and trafficking.
Did you ever meet somebody like Rat-Man in your life?
I mean, I have to disclose when I might have smoked the devil's lettuce. I've met some dealers when I was younger, and they were not always nice. And I do remember one who, at a certain point, my friends were like, "You got to call this guy," and we called, and the mother answered and said, "He's dead." So there were those guys. They were dealing with criminals all the time, and they didn't pay back. They thought they were badass, and then they died. So,
I mean, it's a wonderful character.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's like a mixture of sort of all the assholes you meet in your life.
Max, when you write, do you explore your other artistic side, like your painting and your music, simultaneously?
There's a lot of music in this book, so it was all bands that I love from the 60s, and some people have said to me, like, "Why isn't Neil Young in this book?" Well, I had to put people in who I thought would be there at the time. So David Crosby's in the book because he was in that, both Laurel Canyon and also in San Francisco and Sausalito. So he was good to be there. The Monkees, I like the Monkees, they're not my favorite band, but Mickey Dolenz gave parties in Laurel Canyon where members of the Manson family would show up, and the Beach Boys. So it was important to have the right people who were there, not just the people that I liked personally. It would make no sense to have the Beatles show up or Bob Dylan because they weren't there. That would just be, and also they're such large figures that they would sort of capsize the book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, and the character works in an art gallery. So I didn't really put my art into it, but I love album cover art. I love psychedelic poster art from that era. So that was a way to pay a tribute to that.
When you were working on this, did you specifically concentrate on writing only, or did you also do music or painting at the same time?
I think sometimes you're writing and then sometimes you take a break and you do other stuff. It's not like you're doing it all at the same time.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that. That would be awesome. But I think when you're writing a book, sometimes people say they wrote it for 2 years. I don't know if they're writing it every day for 2 years.
Yeah.
You write for 4 months and then you sort of hit a wall and you're like, "Am I done?" And you're like, but you're not satisfied. So there's something in you saying it's got to go. And then a few months later, you write a bit more.
Well, this aspect of you came out loud and clear with Peace, Love, and Hate. Mac Talley, thank you so much for joining us.